I lived in the Netherlands since 2004. For some, that's not too long, and for some, it's an entire lifetime. Being a third culture kid has shaped who I am today, and the Dutch culture has a big impact on this. But it hasn't always been sunshine and rainbows. To understand how my perspective of living in the Netherlands has changed, we need to go back to 2017, one of the most challenging years of my life. I just barely graduated from Eindhoven University of Technology after having to fail to get my green light on the first go. It felt like the entire world was just crashing down, and being a bit of a type A personality, I took it very much to heart, like I was an utter failure. And being the kind of person that I am, I went on a mission to find a job as quickly as possible before any of my other peers who were seemingly more successful than me at university, only to prove that you don't need the best grades to get a head start in the corporate world. And I worked really hard and got a little bit lucky to indeed find a job that I could get started with August 2017 before anyone else. And I lived happily ever after, enjoyed my career, earning good money and loving life. Except none of that really happened. In reality, I was quite miserable, hated the day-to-day. I lived for the weekends. I didn't really get along that well with any of my colleagues. I was struggling to form any deep and meaningful relationships, which really put me down on this negative spiraling path. And as a result of that, I started to seek pursuit of happiness in other offices, in other careers, which is why I changed 4 jobs in just 3 years. And in 2020, I decided to make a big change. When I finally switched to a career in digital marketing as a part-time marketing associate, I could finally see the clouds start to part. Cue in the Hallelujah choir. I felt free of the burden that I was carrying on my shoulders, metaphorically, but also physically, because I had these excruciating back pains before. I thought it was because of the poor mattress I have at home, but it was actually the never-ending stress. But spoiler here, this change also didn't get me very far. This also wasn't my path to take, and it dawned on me that I had to look inwards and not outwards to actually finally define what happiness means for me. Up until this point, I was chasing career moves, jobs to validate my own worthiness and get in touch with what I thought was going to bring me happiness. And to be honest, I felt super out of alignment. And I was living in the Netherlands. So I started to blame an entire country as responsible for my own unhappiness. This is what resulted in me making my viral video, 6 Reasons Why You Should Not Move to the Netherlands. It blew up more than I ever intended it to, and it definitely drew some good comments as well as a lot of nasty remarks. Many labeled me as hungry, shallow, and too soft for sharing my lived experiences in that video. And that quick video on its own can in no shape or form do justice to an entire accumulation of my lived experiences. But then I started to dig a lot deeper, and I found out that perhaps what people had said were actually true. I would be lying if I said I wasn't frustrated with my earnings at that time of making that video. I know money is not everything when you have it, but when you don't have much, it becomes everything. Now, don't get me wrong, I don't come from a rags to riches background, and I do have family to support me if I ever needed it. But I had placed this pressure on myself to become my own person. And to become independent, I had to earn my own money, and having it was a way for me to measure this. Also, let's be honest, the Netherlands isn't the cheapest country out there, and money is a tool to help you enjoy it to the fullest. At the start of 2020, just before the pandemic, I started my own business, and now I can tell you, having been through both being an employee, having changed several jobs, and not exactly fitting in our glorified description of what makes a successful person, that to find happiness, really you do have to look inwards. I finally started to see the Netherlands with a different pair of lenses. It helped me to reframe my experience here as a more positive one. I was no longer stuck in this constant hamster wheel to make ends meet. I could finally slow down, take a big deep breath, go out for a walk, and enjoy life. Once I did both the external and internal work, my perspective of living in the Netherlands has seemingly changed overnight. To be continued.